Trying to predict the future of business, everyone has a different answer. Bull market, bear market, rates up, rates down. If only we could fast forward and see what's coming. Luckily, over 43,000 businesses have future-proofed their growth using NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 AI cloud ERP that brings together accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is your unified source of insight, giving you visibility and actionable data to make quick decisions. With real-time forecasting, it turns uncertainty into clarity you can act on. And when you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're looking backwards less and focusing more on what's next. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, NetSuite is exactly what I would use. Whether you're earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to challenges fast and seize big opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning for free at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. netsuite.com/SPI. Is your business taking off? Well, now's the time to act fast and hire help, but it can't just be anyone. Find the person who gets your brand and has the skills that matter on Indeed. No more struggling to get your listing noticed on other sites. With Indeed Sponsored Jobs, your post stands out and attracts the right candidates fast, and it really works. Sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to result in a hire, so this is truly the best way to reach top talent. That's how I do it if I were looking for anybody from podcast editors to community experts. Background matters, and Indeed allows me to narrow my search to people with the right experience and know-how. Possible candidates with years of experience on shows just like this one. And here's the thing with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. I get people who actually fit my requirements. No more digging through resumes. Plus, you only pay for results on Indeed. No monthly subscriptions, just a boost when you need to hire fast. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Now with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/SmartPassive. Just go to Indeed.com/SmartPassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/SmartPassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
90% of every decision isn't coming from our thinking, planning part of our brain. It's coming from that subconscious part of the brain. It's like there's a brake pedal being pushed down as hard as you're pushing the gas pedal, and it leads to kind of spinning in circles and getting us stalled out. So if something's in control of 90% of my decisions and my actions, I want to understand the good things that are in there and then uncover these limitations, limiting beliefs, automatic negative thoughts. They're always firing when you're trying to do something big. And so this enables us to not just try to not have limiting beliefs, but literally remove them from your brain. We can see them in scans where they literally disappear and are not able to fire or wire together anymore. And that's when we see big pops for our entrepreneurs going to 6, 7, and 8 figures.
You know, we talk a lot about strategy and different tactics to help you succeed in your business and in your life. And none of that is going to work unless you know how to plow through all the mental barriers, sometimes they call it the limiting beliefs, the conditions that we've been grown up with that actually hold us back. And this is something that was so apparent to me once I started learning entrepreneurship, when I tried to build my own business and my perfectionism got in the way, for example, and my procrastination started to show up. And this is why I'm so grateful for people like our featured guest today, Dr. Shannon Irvine, who once was a student of mine. We used to work together. I used to coach her, and she was very, very important in my history as one of my very first students in one of my very first courses, who provided so much incredible feedback. This was for Power of Podcasting. So thank you just publicly to Dr. Shannon Irvine. And also thank you for writing this newest book, 67-Day Year. Now, a year, of course, is 365 days. And this is all backed by science, by the way. She says that you can accomplish your annual goals that you set out for yourself, like during New Year's. And of course, we're coming and approaching the end of the year here. So this is a perfect time for this episode. She says that you can accomplish these goals that you set out for yourself every year in just 67 days. This is proven. She's run this as a lead magnet in a program before, and now she has a book, 67-Day Year. And I know if you've been around teenagers and middle schoolers, the term 6-7 has been an interesting meme and inside joke between the youngins. And I happen to catch wind of this because I have a couple young ones in my home as well. And if you're sitting in the car right now and you have kids, they're probably laughing because of 6-7 and have probably yelled it out already. If you're listening to this in the far distant future, then it's probably overdone by now. like many of these memes are or do. Anyway, Dr. Shannon Irvine, she's here, our special guest today. And make sure you listen all the way through because this could be the episode that you listen to that changes everything. Here she is. Dr. Shannon Irvine, welcome back to SPI. Thanks for being here.
So happy to be back on the podcast with you.
Yes, and I'm happy also because your book, 67-Day Year, just recently became a bestseller. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So happy for you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I've been there since the beginning of the just origin story of this book. How does it feel now to be on the other end of it? It's out there. People are leaving reviews and comments. Like, what does it feel like now, especially since this is your first book?
Yeah. In fact, I didn't expect this, but I actually feeling a little emotional because you have been there the whole time. And you know, there's nothing better than taking all that you've walked through for the last 10, 15 years, all the processes that work, and be able to give them to people that may or may not come into your world. And I know you and I talked in the beginning, like, what is the real goal for this book? And yeah, I mean, some people will come into our programs or get certified through us, but really I wanted it to get in the hands of every single human being that desires an outcome and wants to achieve something they've been working on for a long time and can't quite figure out why they're not getting there. And that most people won't walk into coaching rooms, but this can get into your hands in the living room. And I really wanted to make a difference to that single mom sitting on the couch with 3 kids, wanting to start the side hustle, all the way up to the CEO who's running, you know, billions of dollars and trying to figure out how to achieve more. It's really how our brains allow it all to work or not.
You know, the topic of success and mindset is not new, but the way that you approach it is definitely different. I mean, this is not a business book about strategy because you could have all the best strategies in the world. We've talked about this before. You can have every strategy in the world and all the right buttons to press, but unless you have your mind correct as you approach that, none of that's going to matter. And I feel like now more than ever, we're just so cloudy with everything that's going on around us. It's very hard to think clearly. And so what is this 67-day year? First of all,
I know.
The 6-7 thing, if
I know
you have kids that are in high school or middle school these days.
Yeah, you know.
There's this meme going around with 6-7 and that you didn't plan for, but it might be a blessing in disguise because now it's like, oh, 6-7. Oh, yeah, the 6-7 book.
6-7
like,
book.
Has that come up at all, like in your marketing? Or
It has. There was somebody who grabbed it yesterday on TikTok and did a whole thing with it. And I was just cracking up. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
But if you read the book, dude, like it'll actually help. You know?
That's so good, though. Hey, who knows? I mean, maybe this can get into the hands of middle schoolers and teenagers. I mean, that would be great.
That's the ultimate goal. Both of us help business owners, entrepreneurs, those who are growing either from a side hustle all the way up to a big business. But ultimately, the goal is to get these models, these methods, these processes into college first, and then ultimately into our high schools so that all of our kids can understand that they have the power to create in their brain the outcomes they want. They don't just have to believe everything that their emotions or their thoughts tell them, for sure.
Yeah. And you're coming at this from a semi-scientific point of view
Yeah.
as a neuropsychologist, right? Versus there's a lot of people who do talk about similar things, but they're kind of in woo-woo land quite a bit, you know, which is not bad. There's many people will respond to that and have gotten help. I even have. However, having some scientific basis and foundation to lead into this is great. So tell us, what is the framework in a nutshell? And then let's maybe just kind of dive in a little bit and explore.
Yeah, I always say these are the frameworks of why the woo works. And I'm a step-by-step kind of person by nature. And the whole thing came about, and Pat knows the story, but where I hit my own glass ceiling, that frustrating moment where you're doing all the right things. I mean, we are in a season of gluttony of strategy, a gluttony of content, a gluttony of information, right? So it's hard to know what to follow. And I remember being at that place in my business where no matter what I did, I couldn't get past a certain glass ceiling. And it was so frustrating for me. And I always joke around saying the doctor in front of my name stands for desperate enough to go get a PhD to figure out why I couldn't get past that place. And really, it was the reflection of my mentor at the time who had multiple 8-figure businesses, but she thought differently. We had the same exact strategies, but I couldn't clear past a certain dollar amount, like under 200,000 in our business. And she had 3 8-figure businesses. And the only thing different, strategically, we were identical. I was so disappointed to find that out, right? I was waiting for that magical elixir. But I found out she thought differently about money, worth, enoughness, capacity, ability, all of those things. And that started this quest that ultimately ended me up in a neuropsychology PhD, unpacking how does my brain get to the state where her brain was. And the models, I'd love to say I walked into those rooms, Pat, and then they like they unfurled the red carpet of how you do these things. But as we all know in the educational space, it's somewhat knowledge for knowledge acquisition. And so it's, learn synaptic pruning, learn neuroplasticity. These are great concepts. We hear a lot of people talking about them, but no one was doing that sounds fantastic, but how? Like, how do you do it? Don't just tell me my brain has the capacity to do those things. Tell me, how do I remove a limiting belief? How do I build a neural pathway toward what I want? And it was in that quest within those rooms where these models that are all in the book were birthed. And I was the unicorn that I was testing out on. I was trying to uncover really all those subconscious programs that were running. 90%, we know from science now, 90% of every decision, therefore every action, therefore every result that we have isn't coming from our thinking, planning part of our brain. It's coming from that subconscious part of the brain. So I got to work on the 3 simple step model to wire my brain, wire your brain to achieve more in less time. The model itself is pretty simple. It's clarify, erase, and automate. Clarify meaning really understanding what is it that you really want and why you want it. Stuff that we think we do, but if you think about traditional goal setting, it's saying, I want this thing and it's outside of myself. I want $1 million business. I want to have 3 vacations, whatever it is. And that particular action, the way smarter goals are set up, puts your brain in a literal tug of war with what you want, firing off all kinds of neurochemicals to stop you from achieving that. And so we've got to get really, really clear, but do it in the language of the brain, which is certainty. And we deep dive into all those steps within the book. And at the same time, you heard me say this metaphor a lot. A lot of your listeners, Pat, are going to be the type of people who they're naturally wanting to achieve, right? Their foot's on the gas. Not many people are having to get motivated, maybe a little bit, but they're really wanting to achieve things. Their foot is on the metaphorical gas pedal, right? All the time.
Right.
But this 90% that is automated in the subconscious, that didn't happen yesterday. That happened from 0 to 20. Think about how I was at 20 years old. And those automations happened because of what was being repeated around us. And so all those stories about money, worth, enoughness, capacity, ability were hardwired into you before that part of your brain that could call BS could say, I don't think that's true. And so we've got to get in there. And if you think about it, if those things are running 90% of every decision and action you're taking, it's like there's a brake pedal being pushed down as hard as you're pushing the gas pedal. And we know where that leads, right? It leads to kind of spinning in circles and getting us stalled out.
Right. I love the metaphor of pressing down on the gas because everybody's feeling like they're trying so hard and going nowhere while we have this invisible thing pushing down on the gas at the same time. And it's within us from, like you said, just the way we grew up, the way we're conditioned. So how do we unlearn those things? And what are some common sort of forms of that brake pedal that we experience as entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I love that question because there are some common patterns. And the great news is literally it's 4 steps to recognize, refute, and rewire those items once you uncover them. But the big piece is starting to listen to the thoughts your brain is serving you. If you're just chilling on the couch, doing what you've always done, not trying to achieve anything, you're not going to really recognize those intrusive thoughts. But if you're starting to drive for things that you don't have, that's when the subconscious will literally allow the thought to bubble up into your brain. We've all experienced this, right? When we're about to go live or we're about to get on a stage or we're about to, for me, I remember it was when I was about to press play on my very first podcast, 378 episodes ago. I know you have more than that, but that was, I remember that moment. And the thought floated through my mind of like, who's going to listen to you? Like, what value do you have to offer? We aren't taught that those are just patterns of someone else that because they've been automated, we just believe they're true. And so then we retract, right? We pull back or we take a safer action than the one we already know. So the key to uncover them is first to realize that you are the creator of your thoughts. You don't have to give every thought residency in your mind, right? So when you're leaning into a bigger thing, listen to the thought that's floating across your mind and just ask yourself, does this bring me to where I want to go, or is this going to keep me from it? Some of those big patterns for us revolve around money. Is it evil to want money? Does it make me a bad person when I have money? One of my students had a very successful father and was an entrepreneur, right? And she just loved her dad so much and would like try to go to work as often as possible with him. And the thing was, though, he was her hero, but she rarely ever saw him because he was working so much, so hard, so many hours, right? That old idiom. And her business was starting to grow. And then all of a sudden she would just kind of go MIA or not really do stuff. And she couldn't understand why she was doing it because she wanted the results so much. But she was literally what I call entrepreneur procrastination, going and creating another product or getting distracted. Well, what we uncovered, the thought was she's a mom and she has 2 kids. And her brain had hardwired that if I get to this $300,000 level, I will become a bad mom. I will be not present for my kids. That wasn't something she was choosing. That was something that got hardwired when she was really young because she loved her dad, was a hero, but he was never around. And so these are the kind of things that can get hardwired. She wasn't afraid of failure. She was afraid of succeeding and then therefore her kids suffering like she did.
This sounds kind of like therapy.
It's not. And that's the great news. Everybody says, why don't you go be a therapist with this stuff? It's because I don't like sitting in therapy. I like quick solutions. And so when you think about how the brain works, all we really need to do is uncover that story, determine the correct story, and then record the correct story so that you're listening to it all the time and building it on autopilot without needing to deep dive into therapy. I always say we don't need to snorkel back into the history. All we need to do is, first of all, understand that that subconscious is running 90% of the show. So I don't know about you, but if something's in control of 90% of my decisions and my actions, I want to understand the good things that are in there and strengthen them, and then uncover these limitations, limiting beliefs, automatic negative thoughts. They're always firing when you're trying to do something big. And then we have a process called the mind matrix, which is just recognizing, refuting, bringing the truth into the situation, and then rewiring or hardwiring that new belief in. But it is a simple process. And it's just most people don't slow down long enough to hear that thought. We just react to it emotionally and retreat a little bit. And so this enables us to not just try to not have limiting beliefs, but literally remove them from your brain. We can see them in scans where they literally disappear and are not able to fire or wire together anymore. And that's when we see big pops for our entrepreneurs going to 6, 7, and 8 figures.
Hey, fellow podcasters, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, you download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create social clips. Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. I just log in, record with my guests no matter where they are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. With built-in AI, I can also automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time. And it can even generate clips, social media posts, thumbnails, newsletters, blogs, and more, making promoting the show a breeze. Riverside's co-creator feature knows every platform and does all the work, spinning my recordings into optimized content to reach people wherever they are online. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside. Built by creators, for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use the code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro Plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. When running your own business, legal questions come with the territory. Can I use this contractor agreement? What do I do if a client doesn't pay? Am I even structured the right way for taxes? Instead of trying to find your own answers online, imagine having a real, experienced lawyer ready to answer all of your questions without the sticker shock. Well, that's what you get with Legal Shield's monthly small business plans. Legal Shield gives you access to designated law firms in your state to help with contract reviews, trademarks, collection letters, business formation guidance, and even help navigating IRS audits. As a member, you can schedule consultations and get support from a vetted law firm who will speak in a way you understand, respect your time, and care about the outcome. Plus, Legal Shield's knowledgeable law firms can write letters or make phone calls on your behalf to help protect your hard-earned revenue, all for a fraction of the price of hiring a lawyer on your own. So go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. I'm remembering certain moments in my life where I felt like there was some automated response to try and keep me safe when it was against where I wanted to go, like when I wanted to learn how to become a great public speaker. I was always so fearful of getting up on stage, and the story I would tell myself was similar to when I was a kid and had to raise my hand in class and just like maybe said a word wrong and kids laughed or I got embarrassed. And so I kind of just always avoided that. So even though one side of me, the business side of me was like, yes, get up on stage, get recognition, build authority. Great. That made sense. But I was having this push and pull with my condition and growing up and kind of what I believed about that. So what I've learned over time is to just, one, like you said, be aware of this or this recognition of it, but then discovering what the real truth is.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was launching, for example, some of my online courses, I was very scared of the way that I had experienced other people's online courses, feeling like it was just the money grab, feeling like it was not valuable, not ever hearing from the person again and who wouldn't give me my refund, and all these negative experiences with selling courses. So when it was my turn to sell a course, I was very slow with it. I was procrastinating because I was always avoiding because I didn't want to be that. But then when I discovered that those thoughts were happening, I, like you said, began to find the truth within that. Would I be somebody who would actually do those things? Would I put out a course that didn't have value? No, these are all false thoughts. So then I found the proof of those truths, like testimonials from people, letters from people like you, who were one of my first beta students who said, I got my podcast up because of you. And so that has always helped me now understand that these are demons in my head just trying to stop me from where I want to go. And I found now, Shannon, the best things happen when I am able to overcome those thoughts. Always. If I'm not having those thoughts, then I might maybe not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you said, the person who's just chilling on the couch, they're not going to have those thoughts because they don't have any goals. But now I look to find where I can get a little uncomfortable to be my compass and direction. So thank you for that. And what a beautiful way to more easily define these things. And I'm sure the Matrix and the other things in your book can help that. What's the 67 though? Like what's the 67 part of this? What does that mean?
Yeah. So 67 days, we probably heard in past 21 days to create a habit. Well, we know from neuroscience now that's not necessarily true. 21 days, if we were scanning your brain, we could see a new neural pathway being built. So that's where that idea came from. Oh, look, we can see it being built. So therefore, that's the new habit. Well, in reality, yes, in about 21 days, that new pathway is being built, but you have to build as well as remove. So we want to be building that new pathway as well as removing. So right about midway through, we see the new pathway being built even stronger and that old pathway starting to shrink or reduce. At 67 days, we call this the compound interest or the speed moment. Because if we were to scan your brain about that limiting belief, your brain would only show that new pattern, kind of like you said, you started thinking about the positive truths and all of that kind of thing. We take you through that step by step in the matrix. But now that pathway is hardwired. 90% of every thought is getting fired from that place of your brain. And then the old pathway, the one that thought, I can't sell this, I'm going to become one of them, that pathway is completely what we call synaptically pruned. In other words, it cannot refire. And so what happens when we hit 67 days is there's just this compound, and you've experienced that, I've experienced that when we hit that kind of trajectory moment where speed just starts taking over. And we think it's because we've done a strategy in a certain way, when in reality, it's our brain is now hardwired to get there, and then it collapses time. And so 67 days is that moment where old pathway is completely gone. New pathway is completely governing that 90% that's firing for decisions, for actions, and therefore results. And so it's an interesting moment to be using that scientific number. My daughter is getting all kinds of interesting comments in her
Your
school.
mom wrote a book called 6-7.
What? Yeah.
That's so funny.
But, one of the things I want you to think about is we intuitively know this, right? We intuitively feel, I'll hear words like, I'm stuck, I'm not sure, I don't know. That's this evidence of this kind of gas pedal, brake pedal action that's going on in your brain. And the best metaphor that I've ever seen, it reminds me of a time where I was with my best friend and we were golfing. It was a charity event. And short story, she's super competitive. So am I. And I knew she was going to challenge me to a race. That's just her DNA. I knew it was coming. We were making all kinds of money for our charity, which is fantastic for the orphans in Uganda. And we get to the end, we're tied. So I knew she was going to say, like, let's race. What she didn't know is I was in my personal golf cart, which didn't have a governor. And a governor is that device that you've seen on golf courses where the person could be driving and they're going like 5 miles an hour and they're flooring it. It's a governor. It governs the speed in which she could go. She was in the club's cart, and the club's cart had a governor and mine didn't. Now, of course, I bought her dinner anyway because she didn't know that. But the difference between her and I was such a visual for me that the only reason why I was able to get ahead, why I was able to get to that destination and she wasn't, was because there was this invisible governor that she didn't realize was on her that restricted her speed. And these tools in the 67-day year, clarify, erase, and automate, and all the step-by-step that's in there is going to help you take that governor off. And that's how you get speed towards something. It's not that newer strategy. It's utilizing this God-given gift of your brain and using that 90% aligned with where you want to go versus where you've been.
A governor on a golf cart is there to keep the passenger safe.
It is.
Right. And I imagine that in our brains, we have this metaphorical governor again to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line between like playing dangerous games and going about this in a way that is beneficial for us when we take off this governor?
Well, if you think about it, what's slowing us down is the desire to get somewhere we want to go. And so we're telling our brain, I want to go to this place. And our brain's job is to keep you safe and familiar. That means everything that you currently have and nothing more. No one gave us the operating manual that said we have to actually fill our subconscious with alignment at the finish line, not at the start line. That to me is where the breakdown and what we're taught. In January, we sit down, I want all these things, and then we put that away. And then October, we bring it out and go, okay, well, let's modify those. It's not because you're not smart, capable, or able. It's because literally you put your brain in a tug of war with where you want it to go, firing off all kinds of neurochemicals like procrastination, perfectionism, overwhelm, all those things. And so in the 67-day year method, which is how we teach people to set and achieve goals, we teach you how to literally build what you want from the finish line versus the start line. It's the language that the brain naturally accepts, which is the current state or the present tense. If you think about every goal you've ever set, it's a future tense goal. And so just that one action puts us in fight or flight, puts us in all these neurochemical storms to keep us away from it, like it's a tiger, like it's like a bear at the end of the runway there. But what we do in the 67-day years teach you how to set goals, how to set KPIs, all the things that you want, but in the language that the brain is now going to see as safe, see as familiar, and literally through a system called the reticular activating system, start to allow you to attract. You talk about manifestation in the woo world. Part of that attraction is happening when you're able to hardwire your brain or automate your brain to feel it's safe to have now. And then more opportunities come. It's not that the opportunities weren't always there. It's just
you're open to them now.
You're open to them finally. And that's the process that we teach. That's why we can create a year's worth of achievement in 67 days, not because we're giving you some super fancy, sexy strategy, but because everything you've been doing finally starts to work.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You had mentioned before we started recording that there was a place that people could go to get more of this and kind of get started on this journey with you. I want to make sure we don't miss that. So where should people go to get that? And what is that exactly?
Yeah. So the big thing is to get the book. You can go to 67dayyearbook.com/Pat. And over there, you're going to see a couple things. You can order the book right there. It will take you to your favorite retailer and then come back to that page because we have about $1,200 worth of bonuses that we want to use to support you in your journey of hardwiring yourself to achieve the big dreams, the big vision, big goals. With the audiobook is there for you to immediately listen to workbooks. And then we're giving you a backstage VIP pass to a 3-day event where we're going to hold your hand and walk you through the process.
That's amazing. Before we finish up here, Shannon, I want to ask you a couple things. Number one, once a person starts to understand the language and takes the governors off, I know a lot of people who've gotten to that point, and then it's almost like the golf cart just goes wild. It just goes crazy, right? It's like, I've unlocked this new tool and now you're all over the place. How do you still remain in control while you start to experience a little bit of freedom and openness with the way you think?
I love that. Everything that we do within the 67-day year world, that method itself is meant to bring you, I say it's like a bullseye right to where you want to go. And part of what we walk you through in that sense is how to achieve those things so that you're not veering off to the left, to the right, and taking all these wild, crazy courses, but you're really like a focused bullseye heading toward where you're going. And so we walk through that method with you step by step. It's how the brain allows you to achieve goals is really in the micro. And that's probably, we could have a whole nother podcast about that. But the more we go micro, the more your brain adores it and wants to bring more to you. And so again, starting with clarify, really clarifying where are we headed, what's the target, and defining that in the brain's language of clarity so we can start to draw it to us, erasing those brake pedal beliefs, and then putting all that on autopilot. So it's not effort. This is the simplest and easy step-by-step process, but it seems like it should be hard, but it's really not. It's just a secret weapon for you because remember that 90% was created just by repetition. And so we're just going to repeat the things that are going to get you to the end goal that you're headed toward. And that's how you can really stay on course and start to achieve the things you've been dreaming about for decades, maybe.
Is the automation stuff you're talking about more like habit forming, creating habits to support?
It is, but it's hacks. So we think we have to effort our way to habits. And, we sat down and we like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to go do these things. It's really about your brain believing it so that you can see it. So how we do that is through a process we call brain priming. And again, another step-by-step process that's in the book, but it's building a recording that you listen to. It's not affirmations because affirmations are very generalized. Like, oh, the money is flowing to me and all those things. It's not bad. Not saying anything bad about those things. But your automations, your brain primes that we set up are very specific to you, your desires, your wants, your needs, and specific to installing that pathway toward the truth in opposition to those limiting beliefs. So it's very customized. And when you listen to something that customized, and of course, just like music, as the more you listen to it, you kind of sing, you talk out loud. We're doing that in the morning, right when we wake up. So we're filling our brain with that before we put our feet on the floor. And then at night, this is the hack of it all. We listen to it right before we go to bed. That is the time where your brain goes into cleanup mode and removes everything that doesn't align with what you just told it. And so it is a shortcut, a hack to be able to go in and right at the very end of your day, your brain now, if I gave it a voice, would say, okay, wait, that's what he wants. That's what she wants. So I need to get rid of the things that don't align with that. And so it's this hack, this supercomputer kind of way to get in and start to use your brain systems to speed up time. And my favorite question that I get from my students and my clients is like, Shannon, my brain primes, I'm doing them faithfully. Should I change them? And I'm like, well, tell me more. They're like, but all that has happened. It's been like 3 weeks. So should I change them? And I'm like, you should just maybe move the bar. Again, it's not that, remember, I had to discover what was getting in my way. And that's where these methods and models came from. And when you're able to build an automation that's going to run 90% of your decisions and actions, then the results just naturally follow.
Amazing. Everybody go check out 67-Day Year, and that's 67dayyearbook.com/Pat to go and get all the goodies there. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on today and for, we don't live in the headspace here on SPI as much anymore as we used to. We talk strategy quite a bit, but like I said earlier, if you don't have the mind right, it doesn't matter what you learn. None of that stuff's going to work out. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us a new way to think about this. And it's really reassuring that this can happen in a relatively short period of time. It just takes a little bit of discipline and a little bit of help and support. And I'm hoping this is a good starting point for a number of people to really make that change that can help them get to where they want to go. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity to share this mission and this passion with your listeners.
And best of luck with the book. It's already doing excellent and looking forward to seeing it in more people's hands.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Shannon Irvine. Shannon, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me personally. Another thing that Shannon taught me once, and this is when I was going through some tough times based on what people were saying to me. There were a lot of haters. There were a lot of trolls. She is the person, I use this phrase all the time, and I want to make sure I give her credit for this. Hurt people hurt people. So if you're dealing with trolls and haters out there, you just have to realize that that's often coming not because of things you've done, but you simply become the target because somebody else is going through something. And when you dig deeper, typically the people who are hating on others are ones that are going through things themselves. So thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate you for that. And definitely check out her book and all the goodies that you can find at 67dayyearbook.com/Pat. Again, 67dayyearbook.com/Pat. And I look forward to serving you in episode 900 coming up very shortly here. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. And I'll see you soon. Bye. People ask me all the time, Pat, which AI tools are you using right now? And honestly, there's like a million of them out there, right? But here's the thing. Out of all the tools I've tested, including ChatGPT, Claude, all the big names, there's one that has become my absolute favorite. It's called Poppy AI, and I genuinely use this more than anything else right now. Here's why it's my favorite. Most AI tools feel like you're typing into a void, right? Hoping for something decent. With Poppy, I get this visual canvas where I can drag in things like my newsletters, podcast episodes, book chapters, outside things like TikTok, YouTube videos, educational videos. Last week, I wanted to create content about my Lean Learning book, for example, and I dropped in 5 Unstuck newsletters, my book manuscript, and a couple podcast episodes where I talked about the concepts. Then I asked for a newsletter about micromastery. And the results blew me away. It captured my exact tone, including my signature format, and even suggested a dad joke that actually tied to the content. It was basically 98% ready to publish. This is the easiest AI tool to use, and it's given me the most benefit. And it's helping me with newsletters, copywriting, research, you name it. So if you're ready to try my favorite AI tool, go to smartpassiveincome.com/Poppy. Use code SPI for $25 off. smartpassiveincome.com/Poppy. Code SPI. This one's special.